Welcome back to another podcast edition with me, Warren Werbit, on Printing's Alive. Today we have everyone's favorite guest. We have Joanne Gore of JGC. She thought I was going to say JGC Communications, but I didn't. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks, Warren. Just to clarify, it is Joanne Gore Communications or JGC for short.
I messed it up because you told me to not mess it up, so I had to.
That's okay. So I'm excited to be here and to where this conversation is going to take us. And apologies in advance for where this conversation may take us.
You never apologize in advance.
Okay, I'll apologize afterwards.
So let's jump in here because everyone wants to know. So you're in marketing. Okay, you know what? Before we start, to be fair, not everybody knows you, although we think everyone does know you. Tell us just briefly about you and what you do.
Sure. So for those who do know me, I am a B2B marketer. I'm passionate about print, and I am on a mission to help the print industry sell more print. I created Joanne Gore Communications about 8 years ago after having been bounced around for about 30 years as a corporate marketer. I've worked for tech companies. I've worked in the printing industry. I studied and graduated as a graphic designer. So print and ink is in my veins. I can't get away from it. And all roads lead me back to print. So rather than fight it, I decided to give in and focus on helping an industry that I am very passionate about bring themselves up from the dark ages, in some cases, to a modern era that embraces digital strategies, AI, as well as some old school tried and true traditions around the craft and art of print.
Cool. And well, you know what? The industry's happy to have you because you're doing a pretty good job of getting the word out. So you speak, I speak to a lot of printers. You speak to a lot of printers. I have my own angst and frustration with a whole lot of printers. Perhaps you can tell us what is wrong with most printers. And I mean is, why are most printers not doing what they should do to promote their businesses, to be out there, to not be afraid? I find that it's the same old. Let me start off by, there are a lot of good printers doing what they do, and we never talk about the good ones. That could be a special episode. We talk about these ones because these are the ones that really need help, and we need to help them so we can elevate the whole industry as a whole. But why is it that people don't do anything?
So you touched on it. I think a lot of it comes down to fear. And it could be a fear of failure. It could be a fear of success. You'd be shocked at how many people just get so close to getting it right, and then they never make it to the finish line because something is holding them back, whatever that is. What I found with the print industry, particularly, I'm going to go with like post-COVID, after sort of the world changed. And I think that's when the print industry really stood up and started to pay attention, and holy crap, we really need to automate some of our solutions. We need to get our shop floor under control. We need to know what's going on in order to better serve our customers and clients, more and more of whom are going online. So the old way of selling I remember back when I was selling print in the 80s, we would go door to door and leave printed name pads just as a giveaway with our logo on it. You're smiling. You remember those days, right? That's what we did, was literally door to door. You'd find these big business buildings and hope you would get it. There you go. Today, the majority of business is done online, and there are a lot of, and it's not just the print industry, by the way, it's a lot of legacy industries, particularly B2B, financial services, insurance, healthcare. They all fall into that trap of, they've been doing this for decades and decades, and suddenly the world shifted. So we have to learn how to sell online. We have to learn to embrace Zoom. We have to learn all these new technologies. And it can be really scary. It can be really overwhelming. And what I find a lot is that just rather than deal with what's going on, it's easier to just stay in your lane of what you're comfortable with, what you know how to do, what you've been doing for the last 10, 20, however many years. That's the first hurdle to overcome, in my opinion. What are you seeing? I mean, you must be seeing
So
that too.
yeah, no, I'm like the angry printer, right? Like I mean,
No, really? You're angry?
well, not about angry because I'm smiling. No, I'm the you know what? I'm the frustrated printer. For those that don't know, I used to have a print
That's
company. I had
good.
120 employees. We did everything under the sun, and I like to think at the time we were cutting edge in terms of blazing, doing marketing, and all that other stuff. But I'm frustrated today because if you want to talk about COVID, really simply, I am amazed today as I'm looking on LinkedIn and I'm going around how many salespeople don't have their contact information in LinkedIn. Simple 101, 101. When a salesperson has a
Email and yeah, email and phone number.
wait. When a salesperson has a Gmail account in their contact and not their company, I assume they're looking for a job, right? Because why
Yeah.
wouldn't you have your company email promoting your company? Then I go through the LinkedIn page and a couple things from COVID. What did we learn? We learned about Zoom, right? I learned that when I'm on Zoom, I went out and for $110, I bought a better camera so you could see a pretty face, no blurriness. I got good sound. I don't have the window behind me. I don't have a window near me, but I try to make it so the experience of the person I'm talking to is more engaging. The people who don't like Zoom are generally the ones who have digital backgrounds where they're all blurry and fuzzy. So even a
If
little
they turn on
thing,
their camera, that's presuming they nothing annoys me more than going into a meeting and all the cameras are off. It's like,
well,
why? I want to
there's
see your
okay, but
face.
there's two bad things about that. So anybody who's listening to me now, when you're on a Zoom and your camera is off, you are sending two messages. Number one, that you are a disrespectful person because you're not giving the person the time that you've signed up for, or don't go, right? And then the other thing is you're not interested because I know about me. If I'm not watching and I'm doodling or doing something else, I'm not paying attention,
I'm
right?
this right.
So there is
But in
no
all fairness, there are some people, and I've heard that seeing themselves makes them very anxious, and it makes it harder for them to actually participate in the conversation because they're
well.
fixated on their face. To which I respond, so turn off your ability to see yourself, which you can do.
Listen, if you have a problem and you have anxiety looking at your own face, then you need a therapist. Okay. Because I know I'm adding a little humor to it, a lot of humor, but really, so do you never sit in front of a person? I don't get that, but I
Yeah.
understand, I'm not trained to understand all of that stuff, but it all starts with the experience. I just want to touch on the LinkedIn again. We're in
Yes.
2024. Everyone talks about LinkedIn. Everyone knows about LinkedIn. I was at a company with 30 salespeople. I kid you not. And before I went there, I went onto LinkedIn. I looked them all up. I like to know who I'm going to be talking to if I want to talk to them, even. And I looked them all up, and I am blown away. 80% of them have bad LinkedIn pages. 80% of them are over 40, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm using that number, maybe even more, but I'll just use that. And I just couldn't believe it. And when I went to the meeting and I'm standing in front of all the salespeople, and I said, I said to them, I said, well, to be honest, I'm here. You're having me here to talk about sales and what to do. I said, if I could be honest, none of you people are ready to be selling. I don't even want to talk to you. And then I went into this is why. Number one, we all know that the average buyer is younger today. If you're over 40, you got to be in tune. What's the first thing a salesperson does today? They go look up the customer's website. They go look up LinkedIn company page. They then look up who's at the company and who does what. Well, to the salesperson, do you not think that your potential customer is not looking you up? Do you think they're not looking up your company? So you need to dress it up properly. The other thing is, and you could jump right in on it after, to all of my print friends, partners, associates, Why do you have machines on your website when you go there? Why do you have powder in the feeder,
Oh,
which no one
I can
knows?
answer that. I can actually answer why.
But it makes me crazy. So tell me
Yes.
why.
So here's my, it's not a proven theory, but here's my thoughts. We sell the way we've been sold to. So what matters to us and what matters to printers and what printers find sexy is the equipment. You can touch it. You can smell the ink. It's physical. You get it. It's tangible. You'll drop hundreds of thousands of dollars on printing equipment, but you'll scoff at $500 a month for marketing because you can't see it, you can't touch it, you don't understand it. And here's where it really starts to trickle down. Okay, you're right at the top, you're the equipment manufacturer and you are selling to the printer. You know what the printer is looking for. They want to know the speeds and feeds, they want to know the output, they want to know the throughput, they want to know the consumables, what it's going to cost them, and they get excited when all those speeds and feeds and features check all the boxes, and they're really excited. Ooh, now we have digital embellishments. Now we have fifth color. Now we have personalization. Now we have digital die cutting. Now we have web to print. And because of that, that's what they start to sell. And they feature all of these cool pieces of equipment that they've spent, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on. And at the end of the day, the customer doesn't care. They want to know, oh, you've got a new embellishment press? Okay, what does that mean for me? It means we can now produce labels that are going to fly off the shelves faster because your customers are going to see something that they're going to want to touch. And now you get into the science of touch. And I'm using embellishments as an example, but it's a really good one because another great one is web to print, right? How many printers go out there are saying, we have web to print? Who understands what web to print is beyond the print industry? Nobody. But if you said, you can now buy your print online, we've made it possible for you to order your print online. We have an online store. We have an online portal. Oh, I get it now. You mean it's like Vistaprint? As much as everybody hates Vistaprint, everybody knows Vistaprint. Everybody wants to tie what it is you're selling to something that they know. And they're going to inherently compare it to something. Oh, it's just like Salesforce. It's just like HubSpot. It's just like Vistaprint. And as much as it pains us, we have to understand that that's what the buyer is looking for. And you're talking about a younger generation coming in. I've never even heard of half the brands that they know about, that's fine, as long as you know what it is they're trying to achieve, what their goals are. So now the printer has to understand who they're selling to and what matters to them. And how do they get to learn that information? And I'm going to tie this back to LinkedIn because it all comes to understanding who you're selling to by having conversations with them. And I mean real conversations where you're listening to hear, not just to respond. And that takes a skill. And great salespeople
Well,
have the ability to ask the right questions to pull the information out of that prospect or that client to get them to open up and tell them what they're really struggling with, because a lot of times they think they know what they want. And I know
and they don't know.
you're holding yourself. They think they know what they want, but as soon as you actually hear what problem it is they're trying to solve, if you're good, if you know what you're selling and if you know the value prop, you can
Mm.
then come up with the right solution. And guess what? That's how you upsell and cross sell. And it's not by saying, oh, do you want fries with that? It's by understanding, yeah, we can do social media for you, but if you don't know what your story is, let's figure out what your story is first. Let's figure out who you're talking to. Let's look at your website. Is your website all about we are, we do, we have, or is it we help and here's how? So, I mean, I've opened up a Pandora's box here, but that's
So,
my initial blink.
mhm.
And I will say this until the cows come home, because that's what's critical. You need to know who you help, how you help, and why it matters. And if you're an equipment manufacturer selling to the printer, you also have to help them understand, great, now here's how you can sell it to your customers. And that's where the manufacturers can add
Okay,
value. I know, we're gonna
no, no,
jump.
no.
Now
Hang on.
this is where it gets a little fun here.
I'm stopping you right now. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm going to go back before I say. I'm going to say what I'm saying, and I'm going back. Okay.
Mhm.
There's no OEM manufacturer that could actually really help a printer do what they need to do. They would like to help them. They don't have the resources, and they don't have the time resources, and they're not kicking in the financial resources. So they might give some pointers, but to any printer, don't buy any equipment from any OEM who's going to tell you that they're going to offer and help and be there. You need to figure out on your own first, and you can call me, on what you're going to do with the machine, right? And that's like number one. Sorry, still have my what they think water
That's
bottle.
okay. I've got mine floating around somewhere too.
So, we were just talking about the customers younger knowing. Before this call that we're on, I was speaking with one of my customers. My customer's customer is two people starting a business, young people, a product. I don't want to say what it is. And they wanted some labeling, and they wanted some packaging, and they wanted to be sustainable and this and that. And anyways, I got on and I asked my customer if I could speak to his client and not him.
Mm-hmm.
And I got on the phone with them, and first I said to them, so tell me what you do, tell me where you come from, what's your background. Let them talk, let them tell you. Then only 1 minute on me, just so that they could figure out that they're sitting with somebody who understands. Then I started to go through, and I asked them about the packaging. Do you want to print on the box? Well, we'd like labels, but if you get labels, then there's more labor in your price going in. They're going to be manual because it's not a big run. If you're OCD and you want it straight, might not be, and you can't go back to the printer after to complain. Maybe you want to do this. Maybe you want to do that. These are your options. If you're thinking sustainability, get rid of 2 labels, print it on. And at the end of the conversation, and I have a little bit of work to do, but they were thrilled. And I didn't just tell them. I gave them the 3 options. I let them think. They thought. They came back. And that's what more salespeople need to do, is listen, but also ask the right questions, and not know it all. And even say, let me go back and speak to the team. Even if you know the answer, let me go back and speak to the team. I'll call you this afternoon. Find another reason to engage with them with a response.
Yep.
But we've sat on a lot of calls on COVID and after with a lot of people who speak and speak and speak and don't do anything.
Oh yeah. So there's 2 things I'm gonna add to it, because you touched on a couple of things. Not everybody, and this might come as a shock to a lot of printers, but not everybody is motivated just by price. And there are still too many printers that feel if they cut their price and lower their price, they'll get the job. And they might get the first job, but they might not get the repeat work. And honestly, getting the repeat work.
This is what I just want to say one thing to every printer out there, okay? You know what I'm talking about when I say this. When you cut your price to take the job, you're losing your shirt, because everything that can go wrong will go wrong. That is why we don't lower pricing just like that. Sorry,
exactly.
I had
That's
to. It's
okay.
killing me.
So my point being, it's not, yes, of course, price is a factor.
Absolutely.
But sometimes what's more important, or equally important, are other factors like timing, sustainability, compliance, particularly in labels and packaging. That's
availability
huge.
of stock.
Availability of stock. Color accuracy. If you're a huge brand, it doesn't matter. They're not going to sacrifice. Coca-Cola is not going to sacrifice anything if you can't get that Coca-Cola red right. That's the be all and end all. So to your point, and like I said, that if there's any takeaway that, we're only just scratching the surface here, but understanding what matters to your prospect. Now, here's the real kicker, and COVID is an example of why this matters a lot. Nobody wants to talk to a salesperson anymore until they're ready to talk to a salesperson. And that means before COVID, I'd say you had, the second half of the sales journey was when they would pop up their head. Now I say we're down to the last third or even the last quarter, like as close to the finish line as somebody could possibly get is when they will pick up the phone. And it's unfortunate because when you're dealing with print, they should be picking up the phone at the very, very beginning of the project. And if you're working with true partners who understand and listen and ask the right questions, you will get that phone call at the beginning. Otherwise, you're going to get that phone call at the end. So
Well,
how do you ensure that you get that phone call? And this comes back to places like LinkedIn. You need to make yourself known to your buying audience without selling to them. You cannot connect with somebody on LinkedIn and then the very first message you send to them is a pitch. That's called the pitch slap. Nobody likes it. I will just disconnect with somebody if they do it. Or depending on the mood I'm in, I might respond and say, does this really work? I would like to show you a better way. So again, to your point, if you can turn the conversation around, people say, oh, they only want to sell me things. Great, flip it and sell back to them. Again, there are ways to do it. I can show you how. Warren can show you how. There is a knack to turning that around. But the bottom line is you need to use platforms, especially LinkedIn. 80% of business decisions are made on LinkedIn because of LinkedIn. Business buyers are on LinkedIn. They are making these decisions. They are checking you out. They're checking out the competition. And more importantly, they're checking out the people who they're going to have to work with. What is your behavior on the platform? Do you post frequently? What do you talk about? Who are you surrounded by? Who are your friends and family and your posse? Get to know them. You connect with somebody. You find common interests. You get on a Zoom call, which you can do now. You can, Zoom. I hate to say this, but COVID was probably one of the best things that could have happened to my business because I no longer had to deal with,
right.
we need you here in the office.
Never mind that. I have people who say to Zoom, oh, Zoom, I'm tired of Zoom, it's boring. I would rather be on a Zoom with somebody than a phone.
Oh my
right?
God, I hate, I've gotten turned off of the phone.
No, but I'm just saying, hence the make the experience. Listen, I got Wally with me.
Yeah.
I tell you, just about everybody asks about Wally. And you know what's good? Aside from I love Wally, it's just an icebreaker. It makes me human. I don't want the corporate, some people comment on the dancing bears I have up in the back. But it's about being human, being personal, right? It's just
I've
about
got my
reaching
grandmother's radio in the background. So
I notice it all the time. But even LinkedIn, you know what? It's just so, you said it all, but it's so important. LinkedIn is the first place people are going to know. It's your online resume. Put a picture up and not a stupid one. Fill out your background, fill out your history.
Get verified. Get verified. I know it scares people, but get verified.
Yeah, the verified thing doesn't really bother me so much. When you post enough, they know you're real. But you're posting stuff. Ask people for a recommendation. Feel good to recommend somebody else. When people go on, they look you up. They just want to see you're active. When they go onto your LinkedIn and it's boring and dull, if they're an exciting person, you're done. You're done.
You have to know what your story is, right? And there's a difference between your bio and your story, right? Your bio is, I was born here, I went to school here, this is where I worked, and this is what I do. Your story is your ethos. It's your spirit. It's, why are you so passionate? Why do you love what you do? Why are you here? And why are you sharing what you can to help other people in other.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
jumping
jumping
up
up
and
and
down.
down.
You're
It's
like, oh
crazy.
boy, I love it.
I know, because it's just, you know what? It's because I have the opportunity to speak to someone who kind of gets it. So, let's talk about very quickly ChatGPT, right?
Yes.
Um, First of all, it's so easy. Number two, it's $20 a month. Don't be a cheapskate. Go out for $20 a month. I don't drink coffee, but if you're at Starbucks every morning, you just cut out the coffee, go to McDonald's, and get ChatGPT. When it's yours and you pay for it, you're building your own little center. You could get your own little LLMs going. And anyway, that's a whole other thing. But go to your LinkedIn. Everybody I go, or a lot of people in the about section, they really talk about the company, or they talk about the I do this, I do that. Why don't you take what you're thinking, go to ChatGPT, tell them that you're prompted to help you write your about for LinkedIn. Put in the things that you like, the things that you do, and watch what comes out. I promise you, most of you will smile and go, oh my God. And you know what? It's a game changer, because when everyone writes, I take care of my customer, I do this, I do that, I look and I go, you're an idiot, because I don't even believe what you're writing, because it's just too done. And it's okay to use chat today because everyone knows it. If you do enough with chat, you can make it talk like you. Mine doesn't say dear anymore. It says, hey, right?
Yeah, you can
But
train,
there's,
you can train it. I was having a conversation with my son who's graduating university this year, and he wants to get into marketing and specifically in the sports industry. And what I said to him was, learn how to become a prompt engineer. The future, back in, the 80s and the 90s, it was all about knowing computer programming. Now you need to understand prompt engineering, and it's a fancy name for providing instructions. So the way I look at ChatGPT is I truly treat it as if it was a consultant or a contractor or a
yes, it's
writer. And
everything.
I
It's
say,
my
I provide
assistant.
this is, but here's the thing. You need to know what you want the outcome to be in order to prompt it properly. So you need to feed it the information it needs to give you what you want, and you need to tell it what you want and how you want it to be. And that's where a lot of people trip up, because, and that's the hardest part. I will spend hours, well, not hours, but typically so my strategy is, if I know the next day I've got a bunch of stuff, let's say to write, or that I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
using ChatGPT, when I'm sort of lying in bed and just decompressing in my brain, I'm creating the stages of prompts. Like, okay, here's how I'm going to prompt it, and this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to feed it. And I kind of have it in my head, so that in the morning when I go in, it's like, okay, here's my LinkedIn profile. Here's this person's LinkedIn profile, and here's their blog, and here's their company page, and here's their this, and here's their that, and here's what I know about them. Here's what they're struggling with. Here's a recording of a conversation that we had. Here's the transcript. I feed it everything. And then I say, based on all of this, now create XYZ. And by the way, I want it to resemble this example of something I produced a year ago. I want it to follow this format. I want it to use this messaging. And I just go to town, and then it spits it out. Usually it's on the right track. And then I just have to kind of refine it. And it's in layers. You don't do it all at once. It's like, okay, sometimes I say, what other information do you need to produce this? Sometimes I'll use one, like I'll go to
I was going to
Perplexity
say
to
that.
create a prompt for ChatGPT, or vice versa.
Or take
So,
what you've actually done in one
and
and
put it
ask the
into
other to fix it up.
exactly. And they each have their own. And again, I'm geeking out, and I don't
No,
want
but
people
it's
to go, oh
simple.
no, this is
No,
too much to
but
do. But here's the thing. If it's too much, then one, go online and just go watch some YouTube videos of how to do it, or
and I have a
reach
couple
out
of
to
people want
people
to know.
like,
Yeah.
or reach out to folks like me,
To
like
me.
Warren or me. But this is
Me
what
first, me
we
first.
do. This is what we do day in
You know
and
what?
day out, so you don't have to. That's the value of bringing in a trusted resource so that you can focus on what you need to do and we will fill in all those gaps, right? That's the value.
So I'm going to give you just two things. First of all, when I do the podcast, I'm always like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I don't want to read from a script, but I put my thoughts down and I go into my own little, you know, language little thing that I created for myself for podcast. And I put down some ideas. And even for today, which I'm not going by any of what I did,
No, not
it
at
gives me
all in the slightest.
but it gives me the it gives me the
4 pages here. Look, highlighted notes. We're not even following it.
right. But
Between the two of us, it's crazy.
but it what it did was it gave me a little bit of confidence in that I knew what I was going to do, because I have some I have some other guests that are coming on that might be a little more serious than us, but it just put me at ease. It put me at ease, and I see everything there, right? And then I can go from that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you want to write a sales letter, you want to write an email. I'm not a bad writer, but I'm using that. I write what I want, and then I throw it in and I say, can you clean it up? This is my point. This is what I want to do. And it really makes it better. I've used it where I wanted to write an email and I was pissed off, angry, like I wanted to scream and swear in the email. And my actual writing did have screaming and swearing, but I know that I couldn't press the button. So I put it into chat and I said, I need to get a point across. I don't want to sound so angry and vengeful, right? And I pressed the enter, and up came a beautiful email that was well written, that was so sharp and pointed, but it didn't have my emotion, right? Game changer.
Because it can't. And that's
Right.
the finishing touch. And that, again, is the difference between a copywriter and an AI. It'll get you maybe 80% of the way there. You still need a professional to polish up what you have, depending on what it is. If it's a simple email, you can do it yourself. But
it happened. It happened this morning. It happened this morning. I did something in chat that I need to send out. I sent it to you. Mm-hmm. It was actually pretty good. You added in 6 red marks because you like to add red marks. So did my teachers. But those red marks, one was an and, a word, and it made it complete. So it's not the end all. But you know what? I'm going to talk to salespeople right now. You're out there. You don't know which way to go. You got some apprehension. You're not sure what to do. Sit down with chat and just say, hey, I'm a print salesperson. I'm stuck today. I'm trying to decide who I should call. This is what my company does and specializes. Put your company website in there because it'll read it right away. Put in any other information you want and say, can you offer me some suggestions on what area, who I should call? Watch what happens.
Okay? It's insane. Insane.
Right. In my own world, and I've said it before, but I've got a little ADHD and a couple other little things that makes getting started sometimes really, really difficult. Procrastination is probably the biggest word in my dictionary. Joanne could attest to that. And for the last 2 years since chat started, I now sit down and I just bang away what I'm just thinking quickly. And it gives me enough to start with to fill up the head that I get over that speed bump. Because I get stuck
and you
before
hated it at first. I remember you were digging in your heels at the beginning, like, no, I'm not using that. Everybody's using that. No. And it's changed so much.
How could you not use it?
But again, to your point, there are times where, I'm a very to the point, sometimes a little to the point where it's cold. So if I'm sending an email, it's like, hey, just checking in on blah, blah, blah. And I realize, I could probably say that a little bit better. So I can agonize with that for the next half an hour, or I can put it into chat and say, can you just make this sound a little better? And it'll spit something out. And I'll either say shorter or longer. And within 5 minutes, I've got my email sounding just a little more engaging than that cold one-liner that just might be off-putting, because again, the sentiment in an email or a text is very different than
Oh, for
face to
sure,
face.
for sure.
And I've had miscommunications, particularly dealing with, let's say, Europe. We read into things when people
There's a
speak different
translation
languages.
issue. There's a brain
Exactly, all of
translation
it.
issue.
So I want to make it as easy to, and sometimes it's just an emoji for me to show that I'm saying this in a friendly way, not in a mean-spirited way.
By the way, the emoji takes the edge off of an email, right? Like if you put a
Yes.
smile, it
But for
brings
some
people
people,
down.
it doesn't work. For some people, I will not send an emoji. They are not emoji people. They are not very corporate rigid. But again, understanding your audience helps you communicate with them in a way that matters most to them. It's like everything else we've been talking about. You need to know who you're talking to. You need to know who your ideal buyer is. Who you don't want to waste your time on LinkedIn reaching out and engaging in connection requests for people that aren't going to add value to your business if that's the reason you're reaching out. If you're reaching out for like friendships and whatnot, I'll have to say you might want to try a different platform. Yes, LinkedIn is great to build those friendships, but they're business relationships. Let's not
Absolutely.
mistake the relationships that we build on LinkedIn. Ultimately, they could turn into long-term friendships, but really you're building business relationships so
And
that no matter where you go or where they go, you're still connected because of a common platform.
the other thing is this, couple things. Number one, everybody on LinkedIn is there to do business. Period.
Or find a
That's
job.
no, no, okay, but in essence, it's doing business. It's about
Yes.
business, right? So it's really good. But I want to go back to the salespeople right now in Chat GPT. Okay,
Yeah.
um, chat. So first of all, if you use Google, stop. There's no point. The information on Google is nowhere near as good as some of the AIs that are out there. You want to know about a company, you want to know something, you should be using chat. You should be paying the $20, and I don't get paid or sponsored by them. But it's so important because then it's yours again. But all your information is at your fingertips. You could learn so much. You could put in, I'm seeing Fruit of the Loom. Who are Fruit of the Loom's top 5 competitors? Where are they located? What are the main products?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they made? There is 100 questions that you could sit there. And by the way, you could do it while you're watching the football game. We have so many tools in front of us now that there are no more excuses. If you're a print owner and your salesperson, all they do is give you excuses and they tell you they don't want to do this and they don't want to do CRM, get rid of them. Okay? Because we don't need those salespeople anymore. You could bring in other people, teach them to work with the AI apps and have them go out and pick up some new leads for you
Here's the
without the
other thing.
emotion.
It is very, very, very fast. So if you needed to analyze massive amounts of data for you, for example, here's our client list. Analyze our clients and tell us where's our biggest revenue coming from? What industry is it? What product? Like the more information you can feed in, the products, the average cost of the sale, profitability, feed that,
Sorry, I'm
and it
just
will help you understand where you're making money, where you need to go, where you're losing money potentially. What were you going to
yeah.
say?
Sorry, no, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but most importantly, watch what you put into ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put your company name. You don't have to do all of that. If you're paying for it, you're pretty safe. But just don't
Yes,
be
you.
don't
Of course,
be
it
don't
goes
be
without saying.
absent-minded.
Don't be putting in
Well,
confidential information. You
yes, you
can feed
have
it
to. You
numbers
have to, right?
without it knowing where those numbers are
Uh,
coming from.
if you're a salesperson and you want to know what to do that day, even you could put in all your customers and say, "I'd like to be in this area. Could you make me an agenda? Could you make me a schedule?" It
Well,
will.
especially if you're
If
going to
you
a trade show,
anywhere though,
anywhere.
anywhere. If you take your Outlook file and you want to put it in with all, again, you could ask it to come up with all kinds of things, right? The other thing is, if you're calling your customers and you're conversing, you could tell them how you found them. You could tell them you did the work. You could tell them you dug. You tell them you want to know about them, because that's what it is. It's not about us, right? As much as we'd like to, some of us be included, like to talk about us, it's not about us. It's about making them feel good. But we have so many resources in front of us to help us now that there's no
So
really
now
excuse.
imagine you're pitching a client and you need to put a proposal together, and you also need to put a presentation together. You can literally have it, give it an example of a proposal, feed it the information, create the proposal. Then once you've got it done, then say, great, now turn this proposal into a presentation. It'll write the slides for you. Guess what? Then you take that, you go into another AI tool and you say, here are the slides, create the, like, it'll literally within 30 minutes, if you start with the right information, you
Less.
can have a written proposal, you can have a PowerPoint presentation, you can have an executive overview, you can have everything and anything you need. And imagine now that probably would have previously taken you at least what, 3 days, 4 days, a week.
Listen, I
You can
just
do
was,
it in less than an hour.
I was just another example. I was just had to have a meeting with 4 people from around the world, and I'm asking everybody their availability, so they're giving me back their availability, and it's this time and that time and time zone, and I'm like going, oh my god, I'm never gonna get this up right, and if I screw it up by an hour because of daylight savings, I'm in bigger trouble. I
Yep.
took everyone's information and I put it into chat, and I said, I need to schedule a time to chat with these people. Can you tell me from all this information, what are the common times? And then it broke it down to 2 days. And then I said, great. Can you now prepare me an email that I could send to these people with one date? Because I didn't want to give them 2 options. And it did it. And then I said, okay, I'm dealing with CEOs who don't read. Could you make this email a little shorter? Because it gave the whole, I'm so happy and proud and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah, yeah.
And then it was to the point, and I flipped it off. And within an hour, I got back 3 responses: accepted, accepted, accepted. It really is. You can use it for anything, information, for putting together prospects, emails. You're not sure how to talk, work with it.
Bottom line is, it's there to enhance your productivity, not to take over your job. Your job is your job. You're still responsible for hitting your goals and your objectives. If there's something that can make it a little bit easier, why wouldn't you take advantage of it? Yes, you need to learn how to rein in its power. And sometimes you start by letting somebody else do it for you. And then you pay attention to how it's done. And then coming back to your original question, why don't they do what needs to be done?
Hmm.
That fear is just too much. Great. You know what? I have a client that will put in ideas for blog posts and get ChatGPT to pump it out and sends it over. And it's not great, but we can then take it and
It's a good
polish it up.
start.
It's an amazing start, and it saves so much of the back and forth and back and forth. We can get client approvals much quicker because we can create outlines for them to approve. Then we feed the outline, then we get the next step. It just facilitates the process,
Well,
but all the while,
mm,
we have the overarching strategy. We know what word do we need to change, our to do we need to change the to this, and it's those subtle little changes, to your point, that adds that human element, that emotion, that feeling, that ultimately ends up engaging with the person you're talking to. And I'll say it again, it all comes down to, you need to know, who do you help, how do you help, and why does that matter? And then you have to have your story. You need to know what that story is. Everybody they want to be able to nod their head and put themselves into the story you're telling and relate to it. They're not going to be able to do that if all you're talking about is speeds and feeds and run rates and 8-point card
for,
stock.
first of all, unless you're in procurement, right?
Yeah.
You don't care about the speeds. You just have to, if you're selling, you just have to know what you're doing, what you're talking about, and what the customer really needs. It's no more rocket science the same
The,
way that it was.
the foundational principal elements of sales and marketing are still there today. You can't cut those out of, you will never be able to cut them
No,
out.
of course not.
Those principal best practices of how do you engage with somebody, how do you ask the right questions to get the right answers. What we're saying is there are tools out there that can facilitate the process, but you still need to know what the process is. So going back to that fear is, if this is the way you've always been doing it and it's worked, let's figure out, break it down into steps and figure out, of those 8 steps, how many of them can we automate? It's kind of like when you're putting in an MIS or something, right? When you're automating your workflow, you're doing the same thing using these tools, but now you're automating your I'll call it front office, your planning, your strategy, your communications. You're automating that flow. So you're using different tools that you may or may not be comfortable with, but you're doing the same thing. You're cutting out all of those breakpoints that could cripple the process and really focusing in on the money shot.
There's just we're gonna have to do a session on all the little things you could do with LinkedIn, right? Because some people
Oh,
don't even
yeah.
think. No, but I had someone give me a quote the other day, that I was gonna do something for somebody else and resell, and I took their quote and I put it into chat and I said, okay, can you redo the quote letter and put on X amount of percentage? And it came out done. And now that was, I got a PDF file, which was the quote. I put it in, it did it. In the old days, you're going back to retype. You're going back to make a mistake. You're going back to spend an hour trying to get your name on the same
You have to
page.
check the math.
Yeah, everything.
You have to check the math. One decimal, one number can change percentages, especially when you're dealing with tens and thousands of dollars.
Just the date and everything, but it just makes it a
All
lot
that
easier.
stuff. Look, we have no problem using a calculator to help us with math. So it's a tool at our disposal. It's a tool. Here, I'm going to read this quote because I highlighted it. It's a tool, not a replacement. It can help you work smarter, but it's up to that salesperson to make the relationship meaningful. And we can help. We like to say, at JGC, we have tools to facilitate building your network, growing your network, and taking those conversations off of LinkedIn and into Zoom, so that you can now grow and nurture that relationship and ultimately convert it into business. I like to use the term semi-automated, always human. Because of course we're going to use AI, but we're still humans behind it. We're not bots. We're people who are overseeing the throughput and the output to ensure that whatever your goals are, or even if you don't even know what your goals are,
By the way, you can use
it'll
chat to help you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. There. By the way, it's acceptable. It's okay to use chat, right? But just know this: if you're going to use it, at least read and check what you're
You
doing
have
before you
to,
send
because
it.
there are tells, and sometimes it gets it horribly wrong. Sometimes I've gotten to the point, because I'm in it all the time, I can pretty much tell when something's written by ChatGPT. And sometimes I can't. And it's when I can't that I'm like, well, I wonder if it was or wasn't. Chances
Well,
are it was
and
started.
it's changing rapidly every day, right? It's like it's moving at that speed, but it is probably single-handedly the best tool for everybody. It's really, I mean, I've said it
Yeah.
before when I was doing my book, and I'll just, in case people don't know, I'll just hold the book up. Printing's alive.
Oh, do I
But
get
when
to
I
hold
was,
my book up too?
go ahead, hold your book up.
I'll get my book up too.
Well,
Here we go.
it's right behind you.
It's right behind me. Here we go. There's mine. There we go. Thriving in chaos. Lessons learned is
right?
corporate marketing.
And when I was working on the book, and I was working with my ghostwriter because I can't really spell much now. I asked him after, and I said, like, "Are you worried about losing your job to AI?" And he kind of was slow to respond, which told me that he's thinking maybe. And I said to him, "No." I said, "You got it all wrong." I said, "You might not do exactly what you're doing. Your customer might come to you with more of what's on their mind in it because they sat down, they talked into it instead of typing because you could do voice now, and they'll give it to you, and then you're going to craft it, and yes, maybe a little bit more proofreading, and you're not going to charge any less because you're still using the same power, brain power." And he said, "Oh yeah," and I came to that because a friend of mine said to me, "Why are you spending money with someone to do the book when you can go into chat and tell it and do and write your own book?" And I said to him, "Yeah, that's great, but I don't know anything about books, and I don't know to trust chat that it's going to be the right thing in the book, and I don't know what order a chapter goes in, and I don't even know. I just don't know. So yeah, it could help, but so if you can't think it's the end all of end all, right? It's
Hey,
just
we
it's an
had the same.
assistant. It's
Yeah,
an assistant at
it's
the end of the
like
day."
headshots, right? We were talking about headshots on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
You can have AI generated headshots. I work with a great platform that you can get for $50. You can get 100 headshots, and all you have to do is upload 5 selfies. And the question, well, oh no, you're taking work away from the photographers. And I'm like, no, I'm adding a revenue stream to the photographers. Because
I am the
imagine if,
photographer. No, I am my photographer. So that's not true.
but here's how I positioned it to a professional photographer. I said, imagine if you have packages. You have one package that's just AI headshots. You have another package that's studio shots. You have another package that includes all of your touch ups and retouches and whatever. The AI is just your entry level, but then it's your job to then upsell and say, hey, these are great, but now let me take them to the next level. Let me incorporate your brand colors. Let me incorporate some other elements. Let me soften up, it left in some wrinkles and some crinkles. Let me do that. For some people, yeah, that's the value that that professional photographer is going to bring. For others, it's like, you know what, I'm good with, I just need a professional headshot for LinkedIn, and $50. I don't have to go anywhere. I can just upload some selfies, bing bang boom, we're done.
Yeah. So I mean, the reality of the world today is technology is moving, and it's moving everywhere. And people are, when new technology comes out and it affects people in any particular place, industry, it's always a knee-jerk reaction, right? Uber came out, the taxi industry went nuts, whatever. They're still taxis, but truthfully, the taxis killed their own industry because they thought what they thought. They didn't have clean cars, they didn't care. They talked on the car, they talked on the phone when you were in the car. So they are now operating better for the customer because of Uber. So you don't want Uber, don't take Uber. But for me, if I leave my phone in the car, I know with Uber I get it back, but a taxi I don't. So there's some other benefits. But
Well, it's
anything
also just the whole app experience, right? Most tax, I think they do today, but there was
everybody's
no
on an
way
app
to
today.
order a cab online. Like you had to call or hail a cab.
Well, in some
So
cases, right? In some cases, that just makes life a little easier. But nobody should be afraid of the technology. Any salesperson, I'm going back to salesperson, any owner who has a salesperson sitting on their ass and not bringing in things or finding some research to talk about at a meeting or to you about what they're doing, just fire them. There's no reason that anybody should be sitting around today with ChatGPT and having the resources there. You can create your letters, you can create your emails, you
yeah,
could bang
you
them. It's
it can
endless.
tell you what to do. You could say, I am a salesperson trying to generate business. Tell me what I should do for the next 5 days. Give me a strategy for every day of the week of what I can do to generate business. And maybe one day it's calling, maybe one day it's emailing, maybe another day it's creating a presentation. But, again, garbage in, garbage out. The
It's
more you
ideas.
can, it's the more you can feed it, the more it can help you be more successful and more productive with your and hit your goals. That, I mean, I don't know any other way. And again, it sounds like we're jumping on this bandwagon, and believe
No,
me,
it
it's
is it
one of
is the
many,
bandwagon. It
it's
is the
one of
bandwagon
many
though.
tools. Yeah,
It's here now. And if you're an owner of a company and I'm looking straight at you and you're not leading the charge, close your doors and don't get upset when your people aren't doing anything, because your people know that there's tools out there, and I think some of them are waiting for leadership to show them and take them in that direction. But some of our leadership is a little old and doesn't want to
yeah,
fix things. Oh, if you're an owner, ChatGPT, at the press, you always have everything written down, or you should be writing it down. Well, you could now have voice hooked up to your chat. Why don't you have your pressman on every job say the job number and anything that's good about the job, bad about the job, the problems? It'll be recorded, it'll be transcribed. You could then put that into chat. We'll be there if that's where you're doing it. And you now have a full log and a history of all potential problems and solutions. So when the next time you have a ghosting issue or a water issue and you go into your chat that you've created for, call it your press name, and you go, we had this problem once before, what did we do? Boom, you got some responses that you're not standing around going, right? So, and if you want to know more, call me. You can call Joanne too. But
thanks.
really, this it's not the end all of end all, but it sure helps move us along and creates a lot less I don't know,
Anxiety.
anxiety,
Yeah,
negative space, right? You want to talk about anxiety, you're freaking out, whatever, something, go into chat, right? I'm freaking out, I want to do something. What could I do to relax? It's right in front of you. It could be, you know what? It is your assistant.
it's
I get on LinkedIn,
ideation, it's everything. That's
it's
content,
everything.
data analysis. Again, the whole pitch slap that I was talking about before. If you're not sure, one of the things that I like to do is, if I come across articles, and then I'll send them to, whether it's prospects, clients, customers, hey, I stumbled across this, thought you might be interested, let me know what you think. Right? You could ask chat to provide you with articles that you could send. I want to send an article a month. Give me some suggestions of what I can send, or some publications. One tip: when you do enter prompts like this, always include do not hallucinate, just to ensure it doesn't just decide to make things up. It's a little prompt that can make all the difference in the world. And also check any resources, any stats that there is always the risk that it's going to pull a stat that is suspect. Always check the sources. What I like to do is, if it pulls out stats, I say include the citation, and I will go and check it, because I also have to ensure that we're not putting out false
Right.
information. You want to go to reputable sources. For me, that's where Perplexity is better. It can get you better citations from reputable sources than chat. Chat has gotten better as well. Again, I'm not saying you have to go out on every single platform.
No,
Find
just
one, but
there's
know that
options.
there are folks out there like me, like Warren, like other people. That's what we do, so that you don't have to, so that we can get on a session on a podcast and then share all of this information. We've been working with this stuff for probably a year and a half, like when it was really just starting to percolate, when there was no Perplexity, when there was no other thing. It really
Now there's
was
a
just, it
hundred
was
things.
a ChatGPT 3, and now we're on
Well,
4.0. And it's, yesterday I was in, I was like, holy crap, now it'll create images for you. There's so much that it will do that
listen,
I didn't even know
I
it does for you.
I had other thing. Oh, two things that come to mind quickly. If you filled out RFPs before, right? You take them, you put them into your chat. You have to do another RFP. You
No
go in,
brainer.
you put the RFP in with the information, and it'll fill in the blanks for you. And then you review it and you make the changes. And how long does it take to write an RFP? It took us days. It took us weeks to gather all the information. If you take all your previous ones, say in the last 12 months, so it's relevant, boom, it's right there. And no,
Better
and
yet, you feed it in and you tell it, create a master template that anybody can use, with the core information answered, and then blanks where it's specific. And again, that's where now
Hmm.
it's, you can share it. And then it's up to each individual rep, depending on what the RFP is for, to fill in those blanks that are specific to that RFP, that are not sort of the more generic stuff that is all cookie cutter, that everybody's like, oh, what's our about us? And it needs to be 100 words. And when were we founded again? And what is, how do we describe this? And what's our security
It's
policy?
all
It's
there.
all there. It's all there.
Listen,
Why
the other
waste
thing,
your time?
last example I want to give, because it's a great one, and for owners and other people. Someone gave me a contract the other day, and I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, I don't really want to give this to the lawyer, and I'm going to get a $2,000 bill just for them reading it, because they all have to read, and they all read slow. And as lawyers aren't happy with me now for the comment, but we're not happy with you either. But we need you. And no, but I put the contract into ChatGPT, and I prompted it to say, this was a contract given to me. I need you to act as my lawyer. I need you to review it. I need you to tell me the fine points. I need you to tell me what I need to look at and what I should be concerned with. And I kid you not, 8 seconds later, and that's probably long, I don't want to say less because that sounds
Yeah,
crazy. And I had a 4-page document out that I looked at and I went, whoa. And I actually showed it to a lawyer friend after, who went, whoa,
that's
right?
insane.
So it's not about taking away, it's going to sound funny. It's not about taking away the work from the lawyer. For me, it's more about holding the lawyer accountable for the time that he's going to spend. As a print owner, nobody paid me the rightful cost per hour when I had 2 people working on the machine. So I have a hard time giving other people $600-700 an hour when there's nothing attached to it. But forget that. The tool of the analysis.
Just put it in and say, tell me what this means in English. I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand this. Explain to me what this is
Well,
saying. That's it.
I asked for the summary in layman's terms, right?
Exactly. There you go.
Because I
There you
don't
go.
know, and it's the language. Anyways, it is.
We can spend hours and days just talking. I think we're going to have to do a part 2, maybe even a part 3. But hey, we
Listen,
started. We scratched
I
the surface.
I know. I think every quarter, the way things are happening and the change that's happening. We could do this every quarter. We could do this every month,
we
because
should
there's
check
so
in
many
with each other every
things
quarter and
coming
see what's
out.
going on. Yeah,
Perfect. Absolutely. Anyways, we're
all right.
going to come to a close because we could go on and on and on and on. Wow. So
This has
just
been amazing.
any parting words?
My parting words are the same as always. Just please make sure you know who you help, how you help, why it matters, and reach out. There's folks out there who want nothing more than to share the passion about how to help you do better, get more business,
It's me and you.
and help the print industry grow and thrive, because we can do it. We can do it.
Oh, well said. Well said. To the others, we need to we need to elevate this industry, not bring it down. All the equipment out there is good. All the equipment costs. There's a cost to everything. Everybody goes to Starbucks and buys coffee, but they don't want to pay the printer for the work that they do, even though they need that work to market their products. So I need everyone in the industry to smile, hold their head high, be proud of what we do. Don't listen to the negative people. And find solutions for your customers so you build the relations. And that would make me the happiest, because what I'm trying to do on this podcast is really just spread the word and bring us all together, because the world can't live without print, no matter what they say.
Exactly.
Right.
And my parting words, please follow me on LinkedIn, Joanne Gore 121, JoanneGoreCommunications.com, and catch you on the flip side.
And that's it. Everybody else, I hope you enjoyed this session. I know I did. Joanne's smiling. She did. If anybody has any great topics they'd like to hear me talk about, please let me know. If anybody would like to be on the podcast because you got something great to share, do let me know. If not, just keep watching and liking. Appreciate it. I'm going to sign off. Warren Werbit, printing's alive, and I love print. Until the next time.